everybody. It's Lenny Murphy, and today it is my honor. One of the coolest things that I do every year is to talk to the most recent winner of the Insight Innovation Competition, and today it is my honor to talk to Shruti Malani Krishnan of IIeX, who just won the Insight Innovation Competition at IIeX Europe. Shruti, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Lenny, for having us on. This is my honor for sure, and it's great to actually be talking to one of the greatest, industry experts, and really great to.
All right, now I'm probably blushing. I can't really look at myself, but I wouldn't say that. But thank you. That's very sweet. Brownie points, Shruti.
Good start then.
Well, thanks. So, for folks who weren't there and didn't see your great pitch and didn't see that you were just going to revolutionize the entire industry, tell us a little bit about your story and about IIeX, and give us the background.
Yeah, sure. IIeX actually started from a consumer point of view first. So we started as Powr of You, where we had this idea that actually pre-GDPR even, thinking about all of us are creating all of this data out there, but we're not getting enough value out of it as individuals. And on the other side, I was working with clients as a consultant with Accenture and doing digital strategy for sort of big clients, and still seeing all the struggle they have of understanding people sitting behind those digital numbers. So yes, we have fans or we have engagement, but what does that really mean? Who are these people on Facebook, and who are they on Twitter, and how do they connect to my website, and so on? So really understanding people in this digital world. And we thought, well, why not just connect the two sides of things and create a platform where people can actually connect their data story as individuals and get value out of their data. And on the other side, clients can actually understand their audience much better and be able to create products, create services, reach their audiences better. And that's how Powr of You started. We then took the same concept of creating this community who's super charged up about democratizing data, and now using the technology that sits behind that as IIeX to open that up and enable other panels and communities to be able to use that same technology to bring better data to the research world.
Now, in the competition, there was a specific product within your suite that was the tip of the spear there, that was around behavioral targeting. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So more and more that we're working with clients, we are passive behavior research specialists is how we call it. That's the tech we provide. We've created products from being able to ongoing track passive data, but also instant data. Meaning being able to actually access up to 90 days of browsing history instantly and start your research today rather than waiting. As we did more and more of these instant data projects that clients really appreciated in terms of the type of information they get, we were starting to also realize that the more you look at passive behavior, the more you sort of shine a light on the issue in market research around sample quality. So as I talked about in my pitch, it's analytics that you get out of it should be actionable. That's really what research is about, is making data actionable. Well, the data has to be good for you to do that. But at the end of the day, if the sample is not right, you're not really doing the job you need to do correctly. And so bringing that to light, we've created a product called Qualify that lets you actually instantly qualify a participant based on their actual behavior without them sharing any data with you. So if you now want to reach an audience that's football fans, you can actually look with their permission, of course, on their browser and say, actually, yeah, this person's a really big football fan because they go to these sites on a weekly basis, or they're kind of interested in football, and be able to qualify them based on that rather than just screening questions that are sort of claimed behavior.
Okay, so this is very cool. This idea of data sovereignty, right, has been a hot topic for really the last 2 years, I think, is where it's come in. And it, as you said, it comes into sample quality. It comes into, obviously, there's GDPR components now and data privacy. Although most of the conversations around that have been centered around applications of distributed ledger or blockchain-based technology. You haven't mentioned that. So did you avoid that whole that whole mess with tokens and and the crypto winter, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so we had about a long conversation around this over the course of the last few years with my co-founder as well, and he's based in the Bay, so he's had a lot more of this conversation probably in every meeting. Why aren't you guys raising a token and so on? We don't think it's a hype. We do think that there's sort of a screening process to now seeing what's reality, what's not. There was a big hype back then. We've stayed away from it mainly because we've sort of stuck to what we started out doing, to bringing a reality where consumers can actually use their data, and clients can actually access that data with permission. It's not to say that we don't think there's value in that. We're happy to partner with others who are working in that area and bring something forward, because we are looking to open up our platform from a data portability and use perspective. But it's not what we are experts in, so we've sort of left that to the expertise of others at the moment and are talking about partnerships.
Okay. Um, well, those who are watching also know that I've got, to be transparent, an interest in this topic via Veriglyph. So good to hear about the partnerships. We will follow up on that piece of the conversation. But one of the things, and actually from that perspective, here's kind of, as we were talking about the Veriglyph idea, it was around. One of my concerns is the consumers aren't ready to directly manage their data that way. That they're happy for the most part to allow what I think of as data agents, right? Companies like Pi Insights or Dynata or Google or Facebook, wherever the case may be, to kind of function as their brokers and agents in utilizing this data. But you're a direct consumer play. So what has been the uptake from that standpoint? Am I wrong? Are we ready? Are consumers as a whole embracing this idea of, yes, this is my asset, I want to manage this just as I would any other personal asset that I have?
Well, I think there's always an evolution to any industry, whether that's B2C or B2B. So there's always this sort of crawl, walk, run sort of approach that we need to take. We've had lots of learnings over the last few years in terms of how people are taking things on, but more and more with GDPR coming to light, also that there's been more conversation about it. So not that people are ready to now be like yes every time, say yes or no to it, but at the same time, maybe there's sort of a transition step of doing rules based. So these are the types of things I'm okay with. These are the types of people I'm okay with. So I think it's all about taking those steps, and eventually it will be that personalized choices at every go. But at no point is a person going to take every minute of their day to say yes or no to every data access request, in my mind. And we're taking steps towards that rules-based engines that can do that, as you've been talking about as well.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, whether whatever underlying technology is used, it doesn't matter, right? Really, yeah. Fundamentally, it's around giving the choice.
Exactly. The word choice becomes so key. I know it might be overused at some point, but it is really, in the end, it's choice. And what I always say is nobody is to judge what somebody chooses. So I don't judge what the value of your data is or what your choice in using that data for may be. Something that's okay for you may not be okay for me, but that's exactly it. It's a personal choice.
So, this question, I didn't think about this. So are your members setting the price for access to their data within a marketplace type of function, or are they content to allow you to kind of roll that in based on where things fit within the industry as a whole?
It's one of the key differences that we started off with when we started Powr of You as well is, there are loads of players out there and who are trying different models of monetizing data. But we started with the idea, and having read way too many sort of PhD theses when we even started as well, to say there's really no consensus on how to value data. It's also, again, going back to I'm no one to judge whose data is worth what, but I'm an economist by training, and I kind of go back to the market will tell you the value. So we've actually relied on a model of revenue share. So whatever revenue we generate from your data, you get a percentage of that, up to 30% of that. And that's gone up to 65 quid in one instance in a particular study where people have earned 65 quid for a month of their data being used, down to about 9 quid, I think, is the minimum we've paid out for any study.
So are the buyers setting the price then? Are they saying this is the perceived value of this data?
Absolutely. So our job is to give as much push as we can to be as fair as we can, but at the same time, uh, they're the ones saying yes, I'm willing to pay for it, because at the end of the day, they bring the pounds or the dollars, so to speak.
Right. Now, is that for a individual data element? So it's passive metering. So let's say, they're looking at their geolocation. Um,
Yeah.
or is it for, if you're accessing the data element, you're getting the data graph as well?
So whenever it's direct data access, the user has to actually give explicit permission a second time around. Even though they've given permission for Power of You to use that data for analytics, we use it for anonymized analytics. If it's direct data access, they give another set of permissions to do that. And on the client side, we made it sort of very customizable in a way to say you can choose to access one specific data type or a set of data. So when you say mobile data, for example, it could be geolocation, app usage, browsing, so on. And they can choose to do one or many. That's part of the reason for that is, a lot of the sort of market response we were getting initially when we started is people are used to doing surveys, which is much lower cost point from a research industry perspective. And while we're trying to push this technology that makes your data much better, obviously cost has to be kept in mind as well. So passive tech used to be quite expensive, and we're trying to make it more affordable by saying, let's look at your goals and let's work backwards to what you actually need, rather than just trying to sell you a big package, so to speak.
Right, right. Okay, that is well, my brain is just spinning in lots of different directions. First, congratulations. Right. Obviously, I believe this is where the world is heading as well. So you read those tea leaves before I did a few years ago, so that's great. But one of the interesting things, if I understand your business correctly, is that yes, you're building your own kind of sovereign panel, sovereign identity panel, but you're also licensing your technology to existing panel companies, right?
Yeah.
To be able to start doing that within their ecosystems as well. So that's really cool. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of reasons. We're all about using tech for good, and we think if someone's done it well, then we should try to share it. So that's sort of the rationale we've used to be able to scale. And even on our own sovereign panel, we've not sort of done a lot of marketing. We've done through partnerships, and we've used word of mouth as the way to grow our panel of users, versus when we go out to large research panels that they've built up over the years. Obviously, we can bring this to a lot more people.
Right. All right. So what's industry response been like? So kind of both pieces of the business, right? How you doing?
It's been really good from a use of data perspective. So as our technology has evolved over the last few years, we had some really great findings back in 2017. I say back, it's only 2 years ago. But in 2017,
that's ancient history though with technology, right? So yeah.
We had a great year, and we found product market fit when it comes to use cases. People knew what we were specialists in. People knew when to come to us. But at the same time, we also came away from that year and started realizing that we've become tech-enabled service without realizing that we're on this slippery slope, because that's where the research industry has been, and it sort of has a pull of its own. And so we took 2018 to actually take a step back, which was a difficult decision in some ways, but the right, we think, in terms of the direction that we want to take is scale and bringing impact with scale. So we've built our tech now to be able to adapt to those use cases without having that service element. So what I mean is, what we used to sell is like this one big block of passive research technology. Instead, we've now taken a look at, well, what's the client use case? What are they coming to us for? And be able to then chop that up into different products. As we talk about Qualify, there's Snapshot with the instant data piece, and there's Trail with actually being able to use that on your own panel, and then working with us to do people insights using our own sort of Powr of You panel as well. So I think it's been really good since we've relaunched the product. We've been working with really great clients. We're very lucky to be where we are.
Very cool. So how big is your panel itself? And then I asked, kind of going back, let me rephrase the question. Going back to the idea of, are consumers ready to do this? Yeah. So what's the adoption rate been like? Is it more European centric, or yeah?
So we've now closed off the platform to users, except from a few countries where data regulations require us to have local servers, which we don't have necessarily the scale or the interest in just one market to do yet.
Germany.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Russia being one of them as well. We haven't closed off the interest, which also means we have interest from over 100 countries technically, where people come in and sort of make requests, but of, why aren't you expanding into our country? But we started, we're of course a startup, and so we've started in the UK. We have 12,000 users almost in the UK now, and our next focus is US. It's based on where client demand comes from, because we want to be able to not just bring on the users, but be able to monetize that data as well. So the biggest sort of market research areas are sort of starts with US and then UK, because we're based in the UK initially, and now we're starting to work with more European and doing projects in Asia and so on, but with other panels.
Is there a hybrid for that scale, where you're working with an existing panel to create retail? You're like, yeah, let him way ahead of you. Yeah.
I'm just agreeing. No, absolutely. That's exactly it. And that's part of the decision we had made last year is, there's we can keep doing this, or we can try to go as much as possible to as many people as possible. So working with other panels is really the model that we're taking on. So we work with clients who use our technology on their own or on other panel partners as well.
Okay. So we're coming up on 15 minutes, and I think you and I could probably talk for hours about this, and we're going to have that opportunity at some point, because I think you're just spot on. I was going to say I was secretly rooting for you. That's probably not the right thing to say. I don't root for anybody. But because of my own personal bias on this topic, when I saw you enter in the competition, I thought, okay, that's really cool. And what's interesting, too, validation of this, the previous round of the competition in North America last summer, the Measure Protocol one.
Yeah.
So a variation on a theme, but more the blockchain application. So I think there's a lot of validation happening within the market that you are right. We are right in thinking of where this is going, right? And that should be really exciting. I mean, I think that this idea of sovereign identity and integrated data, this becomes the oil that drives automation and AI going forward, and the two will be linked together. And even have to say too, for those that are watching, if we look at the news in the past few weeks, last week we saw Qualtrics and SAP, say yes, we're linking our data across the board, which is why they got an $8 billion acquisition, because of the value of the linked data, right?
Yeah.
And Dynata just put in their patent to create the linked data graph. So much validation of the overall idea, and thrilled that you guys were kind of ahead of the curve and now are reaching real commercialization. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So last thing, where do you go from here? So
exactly where you've been talking about. So we've been opening up our tech, starting with opening it up on the client side to be able to use it with any panel. We are now architecting on our end to actually open it up so that consumers can actually port that data however they'd like to whichever provider they'd like to build on top of. So everything from, in our view, personalization is the future with this data, so that you can actually enable people's lives to be better, easier. So whether that's personalizing the news you get in the morning to your shopping experiences and so on, that's really where it's headed.
Yep. Preaching to the choir, Shruti. All right. So very cool. And you guys are going to be on stage at IIeX North America in Austin, right?
Yes, my
basking in the glory of the winner's circle.
Yeah. Keisha will be there talking about our products and so on. Yeah, and our tech instant data.
Great. So once you're in the event horizon of the Green Book black hole, you never escape. So now you'll be a fixture at all the events going forward. So I hope you're prepared for that.
I'm very happy to be even in that circle. So thank you.
Okay. Well, it was well deserved. All right, Shruti, thank you for your time. This was fantastic, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lenny.
Okay.